friends! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathleen and I'm a dyslexic here to help other dyslexics. Today we are going to be talking all things dyslexia. I cannot wait to share this information with you. So if you want to know the definition of dyslexia or how dyslexia affects people, you're going to get to hear all of this firsthand from a dyslexic today. So if this interests you, then let's get into the video. Okay, so the first part we're going to talk about is what dyslexia even means. It's a Greek word, and the first part of it, dys, means difficulty, and lexia, which refers to language or words. So once you put those two things together, it means difficulty with language or words. So that's where dyslexia comes from. What is dyslexia? The textbook definition of dyslexia is a learning disorder that involves difficulty reading due to problems identifying sound and learning how to relate the sounds and words together, or also known as decoding. Dyslexia can also be referred to as reading disabilities, specific learning disabilities. Dyslexia affects areas of the brain that process language. To me, that is a mouthful, and it doesn't mean that much to me, and it's got kind of a negative spin to it if you ask me. So here is another definition that puts a new spin on it, and this comes from Sherry Ray. So, dyslexia is a specific learning disability, neurobiological in origin. It is typically characterized by strengths that may include creative expression, athletic performance, and specific discovery. The individual with dyslexia often inhibits strengths in big picture concept, thinking outside of the box, making unexpected connections, and demonstrates an intuitive sense of understanding of people and navigating the natural world. Okay, to me that sounds so much better because you start talking about advantages. You start talking about things we're good at instead of just things that we're bad at. So this definition I love to use, and it helps understand and explain the brain more than just the textbook example. So I hope that helps you, but we're going to dive more into dyslexia. Are you ready? What does this mean? This means that a dyslexic brain functions in a different way. We do our thinking in a totally different part of the brain than anybody else does. And with interventions and direct teaching, we can learn how to do reading, writing, and math in the correct part of the brain. But it definitely takes a lot of time and a lot of intervention to get there. And I know that I'm a dyslexic and I struggle with all of these things, and it is frustrating day after day learning how to read, write, and do math. But then not only that, after you've learned how to read, write, and do math, going on in the rest of the world and always struggling to read. I know last night I was reading a book to my daughter that I read all the time. She picks the same books every day. And I struggle with this one page. And last night I literally read it to her correctly for the first time after reading it at least 30 times to her. I was so excited. I was just like, yes, I finally read this correctly. And I even know I misread it. And I'm just like, okay, pay attention, get it right. And I still mess it up. But the best part of dyslexia is there are so many advantages once you get over the reading difficulties. And so some of those advantages are being empathetic, making connections that nobody else does, and also thinking outside of the box. So when it comes to the business world, dyslexics are actually known for taking complex things and making them into a simple process that makes it easier for people to do. So simplifying is one of the best things, and the world has definitely been changed by other dyslexics who have come in and helped simplify things. So are you going to be one of those that helps simplify processes in the future? I hope so. Let's get into my story. So we're going to start off first with family background. My dad's side of the family has it, my mom's side of the family has it, and my mother is a dyslexic. So I have dyslexia that runs on both sides of my family. And yes, that means I got it. And in fact, I am one of the more severe cases that was ever diagnosed when I was diagnosed. And that leads me to the second part, learning how to do everything. I was in intervention forever. I mean, even in the first grade, I was in intervention. And intervention just exactly didn't go how I wanted it to, or how my parents wanted it to go. So I was in intervention with two other little boys, and we would get pulled every Tuesday and Thursday in the first grade and go meet with this teacher. And I would always cry and pretend to be sick on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my parents couldn't figure out why I didn't want to go to school. And so my mother was actively involved in the school and would show up day to day and asking, like, what's going on. Then she finally figured out that it was the days I was going to intervention that the teacher and I guess, just didn't get along here, this little first grader. So my mom figured out when my intervention was and showed up and would help me in intervention. She would bring my baby sister with her and help. And the teacher finally got very, very upset with us and threw my mother out of the classroom and told her, why is she so busy doing all of this that I am so stupid and I will never learn how to read. Yes, I still remember this conversation like an out-of-body experience. I remember sitting exactly where I was sitting. I remember watching my mother get thrown out of the classroom, and I just remember bawling hysterically and my mother trying to get back into the classroom to help me. And I still remember that she stood there for a while, and then all of a sudden she disappeared, which made me cry even harder. And I did not realize what she did. At that point, she went and went to the principal and told them what was going on. And my mother went on to basically, I guess, sue the school district, but went up against the teacher and testified about what happened and had the teacher fired, because you do not tell a first grader that they are stupid and they will never learn. So why waste the time? So school got better and the things continued. And then I went on to get my evaluation in the second grade. The evaluation came back with I had dyslexia, and my mother took the evaluation that she paid for privately. And the school district said, we will not accept these testing results. We don't know who this evaluator is, and just basically threw the test results up. So they would not accept it, and we continued to work on it. So then my parents took me and had me reevaluated at the Scottish Rite Hospital in Dallas, Texas. And we met with somebody, the best diagnostician, and he was just like, wow, I've never seen such a severe dyslexic. I was basically labeled as one of the most severe dyslexics ever, and he had tested over 200 people, and he was just like, wow. And with that evaluation, they were given tips and tricks and things to help me to learn better. But basically what was said is that I needed alphabetic phonics, which is an Orthan Gillingham research-based program that helps people learn how to read. I totally stand behind this program. I wouldn't be able to read if it weren't for this program. So definitely look you're looking for an Orphan Gillingham research-based program. I know I haven't seen anybody really advertise for alphabetic phonics, but at this point, what you're looking for is Wilson, which I'm certified in at this point because I want to help other dyslexics, or Take Flight are the two big ones I know of. And I know that there are some programs, I think Barton, where parents can do the Orphan Gillingham research-based program at home. And I know all of these programs are very expensive, especially when you get a certified teacher who has been trained. You're talking a lot of money, but it is worth it. And so there are workarounds with like the Barton program, but definitely look into it for your child if your child is struggling to learn how to read. The earlier you intervene, the better. So my mother called and got on the top of the waiting list for me to get into alphabetic phonics. And so instead of being punished in the 3rd grade, I would go to tutoring for the first hour of school, and then my parents would drive me to school and I would join my classmates an hour after school started. So that was because it didn't make sense for me to be punished to go to tutoring and then go to school all day and being exhausted. Well, that worked for 3rd grade, and I started to make progress. But the other thing is I got super sick because we were in portable buildings and I had allergies, and I literally was out half the year being sick. But I would still get to go to tutoring because that was one-on-one. So that didn't help the situation. Then we went on to 4th grade. And in 4th grade, that my parents met with the teacher before school started, and she basically said there's no way that in 4th grade the curriculum is so much harder that she can go to tutoring the first hour of school and then come in. So it was arranged that I would go to tutoring an hour before school, and then I would come to school, be on time for school, be at school, and then go home and spend all night doing homework. 4th grade was a very tough year. And then it came down to my parents started asking for standardized test accommodations, and the school district and my parents didn't agree. So a month before 4th grade ended, I was pulled out and put into a specialized school that focused just on dyslexia, which was a game changer. So we weren't doing the same curriculum. We were working towards dyslexia. I was learning how to simplify things and do things. I cannot speak enough about that program. That changed my life forever. In doing the specialized program, I continued to receive alphabetic phonics. I never finished the program. I wish I had, but I definitely made far enough to learn how to read and everything. The testing there was all of the accommodations I needed were provided. It was amazing. And that's when things happened. So I stayed in this specialized dyslexic school from the end of 4th grade all the way through 8th grade. And I learned the way I did. We learned how to write research papers from start to finish. And the process behind that, we learned how to do other things, and it was such a blessing and a huge thing. And then we got to work on reading comprehension, math, anything, and it was amazing. And so then my parents decided that I had been caught up and would go back to school, that I couldn't go back to public school, but I could go to a bigger private school that did not specialize in dyslexia. So then I went on to that in high school, and let me tell you, it was a transition. It was very hard transitioning back into what I would consider a pretty normal classroom, because in my specialized dyslexia class, it was anywhere from a 6-to-1 to an 8-to-1 ratio. So only like 8 students to the 1 teacher, where I'm transitioning back to 20 students to 1 teacher. So it was definitely an adjustment. And my parents would go in and make the accommodations. I still didn't have an IEP at this point, because you really don't have IEPs up in private school. You just kind of arrange what you need, and they know that. And so I stayed there for 4 years. The first year was definitely the hardest. And in fact, one of my classes was just a study hall. And that was a huge help because I just got to spend some class time sitting down and doing the work and playing catch up that I got so far behind in. And then we also because note taking is just so hard when you're trying to process what the teacher's saying, looking at the board or the overhead projector, and then writing notes and then copying. It doesn't work. So my parents worked on getting either a copy of the notes from the teacher if they handwrote them, or if they didn't write it, like a lecture-based class, kind of how college is, I would get to borrow a friend's notes and make copies of them. And I definitely talk more about that later, but I went on to do that. And then my junior year, we found out that I made it into the National Honor Society. That was a goal I had set my freshman year. And I went home one day and I told my mom, I was like, I am going to make it into the National Honor Society. And my mom's like, how about if we just focus on just passing? No big deal. And when they called and said that I got into it, I just started jumping up and down for joy. I was beyond excited that I made it into that. And my mom was like, wow, you really do set goals. You get to them. And so I went on to do that. And then right before my senior year, because I was in private school, my parents paid to have me re-diagnosed or re-evaluated to see like how much progress I had made and where I was. And with that evaluation, we were able to use that to help me get into a specialized college for dyslexics. The college is now a university, is Schreiner University in Kerrville, Texas. I cannot say enough things about it. We took that documentation, got into the school through the learning support services, and I was able to go to college with anything I needed. We had books read on tape. Now it's computer-based, so it's much easier. I got to do small group testing or testing one-on-one. I had people that would read the test to me. I had note takers. And in fact, I would help find the note takers in the class. It was amazing. And that's also where I learned self-advocacy and how to stand up and take care of myself. I grew so much in those 4 years. It was amazing. And I was able to graduate from there with a BBA or business administration degree. And then I went on to get several jobs afterwards and worked and learned how to work in the business world. And in fact, several jobs that I had, people did not even know I had dyslexia. I was actually able to hide it in the business world. And that just made me so happy. Looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have hit it, but for some odd reason, that was a goal of mine, that once I graduated college, dyslexia was not going to affect me anymore. Yep, I was totally wrong about that one, but that's okay. But also, I didn't know all of the advantages at the time. And so one of the big things I look at is when I was in the business world, I was able to take complex problems with lots of people and lots of moving parts and take it and make it simpler. And that is definitely a way a dyslexic brain works, is we look at something and we are able to simplify it. And so without even realizing it, most of these advantages of being a dyslexic came into play without me even realizing what was going on. And so one of the biggest tip and takeaway on this is to focus on the advantages, is the thing that I've learned, because they propel you forward so much faster than just being like, okay, I have dyslexia, that means I can't read. Yes, that does mean that, but look at all the other things that you can do that nobody else can. And so if you only take one thing away from the story today, I want you to take away that. Look into the advantages and help them propel you forward, because since I have learned the advantages, my self-esteem has become so much higher. I am now proud to talk about my dyslexia, which never happened before. And so I just wanted to share that with you today. And at the beginning of the video, I shared what dyslexia is, and now I have shared my story with you. So that brings me to the end of my story. So if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And also, please subscribe to my channel because I have more videos coming. In the next few weeks, we are going to continue to talk about what dyslexia is, more about defining dyslexia, and how to empower parents to help their dyslexic children. So I have lots more fun stuff in store for you, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.